Part 2. Inside the room, Wang Yi sat cross-legged with a solemn expression. A large number of dragon elephant pills were placed in front of him. He opened his mouth slightly and the countless pills transformed into a long stream of spirit qi. Under the terrifying suction force, they were all swallowed into his stomach like a dragon sucking water. Since his cultivation had already reached rank 9, Wang Yi's current strength had reached an astounding level. The toughness of his meridians had become even more terrifying. A large number of pills were consumed and transformed into surging medicinal efficacy that did not cause any burden to the body at all. As Wang Yi continuously absorbed the medicinal efficacy, his aura was also constantly fluctuating. The aura around him also became more and more terrifying. As time passed, it suddenly seemed to have reached a certain threshold. Then, his aura shook slightly and he broke through. Wang Yi's lips curled up into a faint smile. He was very satisfied. He had reached the peak of rank 9. He was a peak Great Grand Master who was at the final stage of the 9-rank system. At this moment, Wang Yi's strength had already far surpassed the rank 9 Great Grand Master backing Zhao Tianlin. Even Wang Yi was looking forward to it. He was looking forward to that Great Grand Master appearing in Kang City. That way, he would be able to test how terrifying his strength was. The moment his cultivation level reached peak rank 9, Wang Yi's vision turned black. Then, he appeared in an unfamiliar space and was shrouded in endless darkness. It was unknown how vast it was or how high it was. Furthermore, he could not feel the passage of time here. There was only a ball of white light hanging in the air. At that moment, Wang Yi's eyes lit up. He understood what this place was. It was the Phala 1 space. The white ball of light hanging high in the sky was the connate Phala. As long as he plucked it and integrated it into his body, he would be able to reverse his acquired qualities and return to his natural state. He would shed his mortal body and become a connate lifeform, a legendary connate realm expert. Furthermore, Wang Yi also understood the meaning behind the existence of the 9 ranks. He also finally understood why realms were further divided into ranks. Boom! Wang Yi's body emitted a hazy glow. His peak rank 9 cultivation instantly turned into 9 wide stone steps that led to the bottom of the connate Phala. The Phala space was a test for martial artists. The higher one's cultivation level was, the deeper the foundation was. Thus, the higher the stone steps formed by one's cultivation level, the higher the chance of plucking the connate Phala. On the other hand, if one's cultivation level was not high enough and their foundation was not strong, the stone steps formed by their cultivation level would be shorter. Even if one reached the 9th step, they would not be able to touch the connate Phala. At this moment, Wang Yi did not have any cultivation foundation in his body. He once again experienced the helplessness of an ordinary person. Wang Yi lifted his foot and gently stepped on the first stone step. At the same time, the blood in Wang Yi's body glowed once again and flowed like lead and mercury. Then, his cultivation level was instantly restored to peak rank -1. 1 step, 2 steps. As Wang Yi advanced step by step, his cultivation level also increased. After taking 9 steps, Wang Yi's aura surged as he once again returned to peak rank 9. Sensing the boundless power, his eyes narrowed slightly with a look of enjoyment. Then, he muttered softly, "It feels good to have strength again." This was how humans were. They knew how to cherish certain things after losing them. He looked at the connate Phala, which was so close that he could pluck with a slight leap. He could clearly sense the terrifying power contained within the connate Phala. As long as he plucked it and integrated it into his body, he would be able to become a connate lifeform. He would be able to extend his lifespan by 1,000 years and step onto the path of longevity. However, Wang Yi hesitated. The stronger his cultivation level, the stronger the connate Phala that would condense. He had yet to reach his peak and there was still room for improvement. Thus, the connate Phala that was condensed was not at its strongest state. Furthermore, because the dragon elephant wisdom technique he cultivated was an external cultivation technique that focused on body refinement, most of the strength in the connate Phala would consist mostly of physical strength. But Wang Yi was ambitious, very ambitious. He had the system and had obtained a body-tempering cultivation technique just by signing in. Furthermore, his cultivation level was enough to pluck a connate Phala before he was even done cultivating the technique in its entirety. In that case, if he obtained techniques to cultivate his spiritual energy and spirit, and perfected all 3 techniques, how strong would the condensed connate Phala be? However, that lifespan of 1,000 years was too tempting. Thus, It was difficult to decide immediately. As he stood on the 9th stone step, Wang Yi suddenly laughed. His laughter was relieved, unrestrained, and savage. What was there to hesitate about? He was still young. There was no need to be jealous of a 1,000-year lifespan. If he could sign in into the system but did not dare to pursue the strongest connate phala, then what was the use of the system? Without any hesitation or reluctance, Wang Yi turned around and jumped to pluck the connate phala that he could easily obtain. Bang! The phala space shattered. Then, Wang Yi opened his eyes and realized that he was still sitting cross-legged on the bed. Looking at the clock on the wall, it was already 1 a.m. His sign-in chance had been refreshed again. Wang Yi simply shouted, "System, I'm signing in." Ding! Signed in successfully. Congratulations to the host for receiving a tool, the Lu Maoxing Peak Cooking Card. A purple card that looked like it was made of crystals appeared in the system space. Countless mysterious patterns that seemed to form a hexagram were carved on the back of the card. There was a young man carved on the front of the card. He had long, blackish-blue hair and wore a red headscarf. He was also wearing a white chef's uniform with fire patterns embroidered on it and a red cardigan on the outside. Wang Yi was caught off guard by this. He thought that before the Dragon Elephant Wisdom technique reached level 13, he would only obtain the Dragon Elephant pill from the system. Thus, he did not expect a new item to appear today. However, why had the style of the rewards changed? Wasn't it said that in the world of martial arts, one would become invincible after cultivating to become the strongest? What, was the system going to make him a chef as well? Wang Yi felt very tired. Of course, he knew who Lu Maoxing was. He was the protagonist of Chuka Ichiban 1. His deepest impression was that in the anime, the dishes would shine. But this was not a real reason for him to change his profession, right? However, since he had already obtained it, it was not good to waste it. Exclamation mark. With a thought, the purple card appeared in Wang Yi's hand. Then, it instantly turned into a purple light that fused into his glabella. Boom! Countless memories flooded into his mind. He learned about knife techniques, fire control, time control, the spiritual food catalog, spiritual material combinations, and so on. After a long while, Wang Yi finally heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. Not bad, it was an unexpected surprise. After being modified by the system, this was no longer just a cooking skill. Instead, he learned the combination of all kinds of ingredients that contained spirit chi. Furthermore, he learned a special cooking method to multiply the amount of spirit chi contained in the food, producing an additive effect. The spiritual food catalog was all-encompassing as well. It included the ironback boar, the great horn antelope, the connate realm purple jade jow, and the flowing cloud fierce tiger. All non-human creatures were spiritual food in the spiritual food catalog. Wang Yi was tempted. Should he go out of the city to find some spiritual ingredients? 6 years after the apocalypse, a mysterious explosion happened in the capital of the Ming dynasty. It was called the Apocalypse Big Bang. In the next few years, the spirit chi of the world started to revive. Then, the martial artists slowly realized that nowadays, 1 day of cultivation was equivalent to 1 month of cultivation in the past. The cultivation speed had become so fast that it was as if they were traveling 1,000 miles a day. The might of a cultivation technique had become even more terrifying. In the past, the most powerful experts could only open a stone tablet. Now, the most outstanding ones could shatter mountains and destroy rivers with their swords. However, spirit chi was not only beneficial to humans, but also to wild animals, birds, and various other animals. While the strength of humans was increasing rapidly, the strength of the animals was also increasing at an even faster speed. They developed peacefully for a few years. Then, a war broke out all of a sudden, and the humans were caught off guard. Unexpectedly, in a few years, the animals had turned into terrifying beasts that were far more powerful than the humans. Humanity then fell into a dark era that lasted for decades. The human population had dropped from tens of billions to less than a billion in a few decades. The war was like a fire. There were always those who would rise from the ashes. During these decades, there were also unmatched experts who rose up. They established giant cities, stopped the vicious beasts, and built giant walls. Thus, they ended the dark era that lasted for several decades. From then on, the humans lived within the giant cities, while the beasts took over the endless wilderness and divided them up among themselves. Until now, only the strong could enter the wilderness. What Wang Yi wanted to do was to go out of the city and hunt some ferocious beasts from the spiritual food catalog. Then, he wanted to try out the legendary cooking skills he had obtained. Ignoring the fact that it was already 1 in the morning, he took out his phone and dialed a number. The call went through shortly after. "Hello, who is this?" A man sounded from the other end of the phone. He sounded weak and he probably has just woken up. "I'm Wang Yi. Let's change our meeting time today. Prepare the kitchenware and wait for me in the private suite at 11 a.m. There's no need to prepare food." After the call was picked up, Wang Yi didn't care if the other party heard him clearly. After he finished speaking, he hung up. Inwardly, he was delighted. A few days ago, he had wanted to find an opportunity to compensate Fang Mings and thank him for his help towards the Su family. Today, he could settle these two matters. Fang Mingzi's luck was pretty good. Coincidentally, he had drawn the Lu Maoxing Peak cooking card today. In addition to the argument he had thought of when he met Fang Mings previously, today was definitely his lucky day. At that moment, Fang Mings was dumbfounded. Grandmaster Wang had called so late at night and said such nonsense. What did he mean? However, he didn't dare to be negligent. He recalled Wang Yi's words and remembered a few keywords: 11 a.m., kitchenware, no need to prepare food. Then, he continued to sleep. He put the phone back into his pocket. Sometimes, Wang Yi felt really helpless. In this world, everything that was related to martial arts was very advanced and had developed well. However, ordinary technology was somewhat unsatisfactory. It was only at the standard where Earth was at in the year 2000. For example, phones only had screens, but no entertainment applications. The sentimental feeling only lasted for an instant. Then, Wang Yi appeared on the streets. Kang City at night was pitch black and looked no longer as prosperous as it was in the day. In a few flashes, he disappeared into the night like a ghost. When he reappeared, he was already at the edge of the city wall. Wang Yi was a little surprised. He knew that his speed was very fast, but he didn't expect it to be this fast. His speed was at least 500 meters per second, and that was not even him using his full strength. Furthermore, Kang City was huge and could accommodate more than 10 million people. However, it only took a few minutes for him to travel from the center of the city to the city wall. This was a little scary. When he stood at the bottom of the city wall, he felt very shocked and suffocated. The height of the wall was at least 100 meters, and it was more than 30 meters thick. In the dark night, it was like a sleeping dragon coiling its body and protecting Kang City. Wang Yi bent his knees slightly and exerted a little more strength. He leapt up and surpassed the city wall by a large margin. Then, like a huge bird, he landed on the ground silently. No one discovered him all the way up. The city and the wilderness had become two different worlds. There were unknown weeds that were taller than humans everywhere in the wilderness. The leaves were like saw teeth, and there were broken bones on the ground from time to time. From the looks of it, these bones should be the remains of the late humans in the Dark Era. There was a faint shadow of a building in front of him. It should have been a village in the past. There were quite a number of ferocious beasts flashing past inside, letting out waves of beast roars. Wang Yi did not have a specific goal. He simply wandered aimlessly. This hell-like wilderness was more like his own backyard. However, his spiritual energy covered the area within a few kilometers. He carefully scanned the area. Although there were no targets around, there was nothing wrong with using his spiritual energy to find some powerful beasts. After all, the stronger the beast, the better it would taste. Before long, Wang Yi stopped in his tracks. He extended his right index finger and pointed at the void. A surge of sharp true qi shot out from the tip of his finger like lightning. Then, it appeared a few hundred meters away in an instant. Bang! The sound of something heavy falling to the ground could be heard. A 3-meter-tall, elk-like creature covered in black fur slowly fell to the ground behind a giant tree. A bloody hole the width of a finger had appeared on its forehead and blood flowed out from it. Wang Yi's figure swayed and disappeared from where he was standing. He instantly appeared beside the gigantic tree. With a wave of his hand, the fallen creature appeared in the system space. Then, a smile appeared on his face. He did not expect to obtain a shadow elk as soon as he left the city. Not bad, this was a good start. Although the shadow elk was not strong and could only reach rank 3 at best, it was a very precious and rare spiritual ingredient. The shadow elk had a very special innate ability that allowed it to blend into the surroundings. It was very difficult to detect it with the naked eye. Even with Wang Yi's strength, he could not see it with his naked eye. One could imagine how terrifying this ability was. However, this ability was not invincible. It had an obvious weakness. It could not block the detection of spiritual power. Wang Yi was only able to discover it because his spiritual power had enveloped the area a few miles around him. The reason why the Shadow Elk was so precious was that it required a Grandmaster rank expert to constantly scan the area with their spiritual power in order to discover and capture it. Using spiritual power continuously was quite a burden even for a Grandmaster rank expert. In addition, even though the Shadow Elk had a delectable taste, the amount of spirit chi it contained was average. Thus, it was not too precious. As a result, there were very few Grandmasters who would spend so much effort to search for Shadow Elks in order to satisfy their appetite. Therefore, Shadow Elks were extremely rare in the market. Without wasting too much time, Wang Yi continued deeper into the wilderness. After all, this was only the beginning. The scenery around him rapidly changed. In the dark night, Kang City was like a giant slumbering beast that gradually became smaller until it completely disappeared from sight. Along the way, Wang Yi did not know exactly how far he traveled. He only remembered that after Kang City completely disappeared from his sight, he encountered a few other giant cities. One of the giant cities left the deepest impression on him. It was at least 10 times larger than Kang City, and its walls were also much larger. The characters, Langya, were carved on the top of the city gate. It contained a powerful spiritual pressure. It must have been written by a top expert. Initially, Wang Yi thought that since he had already arrived, he might as well just directly enter the city and kill Zhao Tianlin to end everything once and for all. It would also solve the Su family's troubles and save their enemy the trouble of coming to Kang City to cause trouble again. However, in a daze, Wang Yi sensed a powerful aura rising within the city. Even in the dark night, it was as dazzling as the sun. Of course, only those who were powerful enough would be able to sense it. Ordinary people would not sense it at all. Wang Yi could vaguely sense a fatal threat from the aura. There was also a sense of familiarity. It was like the aura emitted by the Conate Phala in the Phala space. It was the Conate realm. Unexpectedly, there was a Conate realm expert hidden within Langya County City. After that, Wang Yi felt relieved once again. With his own strength, he might not be invincible among those of the same level, but it wouldn't be easy for him to lose either, let alone be in fatal danger. Most likely, only a Conate realm expert who had changed the essence of his life and reversed his acquired qualities could give him such pressure. This also dispelled Wang Yi's idea of entering the city to kill Zhao Tianlin. If he barged into a city protected by a Conate realm expert to kill a Grandmaster, it would be completely different though if Zhao Tianlin left the city and was killed outside by others because of personal grudges. If he tried to kill Zhao Tianlin inside the city, the Conate realm expert would step out to stop him. Even if he could kill Zhao Tianlin before that person made a move, he would still have to face the pursuit of a Conate realm expert. After all, this concerned the pride of a Conate realm expert. However, the latter was different. In the martial world, this was how it was. In the jungle, the strong were revered. It was also normal for martial artists to have grudges with each other. Furthermore, a rank 9 Great Grandmaster was at the final stage of the 9-rank system. If they took another step forward, they could change the essence of their lives and reverse their acquired teachings to return to their natural state. That Conate realm expert would not kill or offend an existence like Wang Yi because of a personal grudge between martial artists and a rank 7 Grandmaster. In any case, Wang Yi was still lacking in strength. If his Dragon Elephant Wisdom technique had reached level 13, and he had successfully plucked the Conate Phala and integrated it into his body, then there was no need to have so many considerations. Even if he directly charged into the city and killed Zhao Tianlin, what could that person do? Even if he dared to fight to the death with Wang Yi might not be afraid to do so. Since they were both Conate realm warriors, it was not clear who was stronger and who would win. Only after one battle would it be clear. Unfortunately, these were all what-ifs. After all, Wang Yi was still in the 9-rank system and had not taken that step yet. However, it did not matter. After all, he did not come here specifically for Zhao Tianlin. He just happened to pass by Langya County City and conveniently found his target. It would be best if he could kill Zhao Tianlin, but it didn't matter if he couldn't. However, this also served as a warning to Wang Yi. In the world of martial arts, strength was the heaviest foundation. At the same time, his complacency, laxness, and other emotions he had felt when he had broken through to peak rank 9 have been completely wiped out. Far away from Langya County City, Wang Yi continued to venture deeper into the wilderness. During this period of time, he hunted quite a number of ferocious beasts. In the boundless system space, there was a small mountain of corpses. Almost all the top-tier beasts recorded in the spiritual food catalog had been hunted down by Wang Yi. The levels of the beasts also varied. The lowest leveled beast was not even at rank 1, while the highest leveled beast was equivalent to a rank 7 human grandmaster. Unfortunately, there wasn't a single vicious beast above rank 7. Wang Yi only managed to find one rank 7 beast, and he found it deep in the wilderness far from the giant cities. This was probably due to the deterrence brought by the various giant cities. In addition, there was a Conate realm expert in Langya County City, which was why some powerful beasts did not dare to approach the city. After all, although the overall strength of the beasts was slightly greater than humans, they were only stronger in the middle and lower levels. The high-leveled beasts were almost on the same standing as similarly ranked humans. Right now, both sides had already formed a delicate balance and possessed a type of tacit understanding. They were both cultivating, resting, and quietly developing. Even if there were disputes, they would be among humans and creatures below the Conate realm. It could be considered as training for soldiers. Both sides never dared to go too far, nor had there been a massacre of cities. After all, if the weak humans were to be massacred, it would incite the extreme experts to go crazy. The beasts would not be able to withstand them then. No one was willing to be the first to break this rare development period. Wang Yi, who was still moving forward, suddenly let out a soft gasp. He stopped in his tracks and looked into the distance. Then, his face was filled with ecstasy. 10,000 meters away, there was a steep mountain peak that was like a peerless sword. It had a majestic aura that pierced straight into the sky. The mountain peak was hidden among the clouds. There was a 7-colored flower on the peak. The flower had 7 petals, and each petal had a different color. Furthermore, each petal was enshrouded in a hazy glow. The flower was extraordinary, causing it to look even more beautiful and mysterious. Thankfully, Wang Yi was strong enough and his vision had been enhanced too many times. Thus, the night for him was as bright as day. Otherwise, he might not have noticed the 7-colored flower and the unique glow that it exuded. In an instant, Wang Yi disappeared from his original spot. His figure flickered a few times, and when he reappeared, he was already at the foot of the mountain. When he arrived at the foot of the mountain and looked up, the strong visual impact was different from when he was looking at the mountain from afar. Beneath his feet, he could feel how tiny he was. He was like an ant looking at the sky. This was just like on the road of martial arts. Every time his cultivation reached a peak, he would discover that there were even higher peaks waiting to be climbed, waiting to be conquered. There was no limit to martial arts, and one had to constantly advance and chase after the next peaks. Wang Yi did not stay at the foot of the mountain for long as he sped towards the top of the mountain. The mountain path was winding and steep, and one wrong step would lead him to a bottomless abyss. However, Wang Yi moved as if he was walking on flat ground. The mountain was shrouded by countless unknown trees. The canopy of the trees covered the entire sky. As a result, one could not see the sky at all from within the forest. It was as if one had entered another world. The roots of the old tree were like pythons that messily intertwined with one another. However, as Wang Yi continued to move forward, the number of trees gradually decreased. About halfway up the mountain, there was no longer any trace of green. Only the brown surface of the mountain was left. Furthermore, it became even steeper. Not long after, Wang Yi leapt into the air and appeared at the peak of the mountain. He looked at everything in front of him and had a feeling that it was unreal. The entire mountain peak was as smooth as a mirror. The distance between the foot and the peak of the mountain was more than 10 miles. The entire length could span a small town. Perhaps it was more appropriate to call this place the middle of the mountain. This was because it was as if someone had horizontally cut the mountain peak in half with a saber. The surface of the mountain was as smooth as a mirror. Wang Yi couldn't imagine what kind of power was needed to achieve this. Looking up into the distance, Wang Yi's eyes grew brighter. That's right, it was really it. It was the 7-colored heaven ascension stage. There was a small pond not far from where Wang Yi was. It wasn't that large, and within it, there was a spiritual spring. There was endless spiritual essence rising from it, accompanied by white brilliance. In this dark night, the surroundings were illuminated, forming a domain of light. Above the pool, there was a 7-colored lotus flower. As the spirit chi surged, the flower continuously swayed and undulated. The 7-colored light that the flower emitted was like pollen that scattered into the surroundings. It was incomparably beautiful and alluring. This was the seven-colored heaven ascension stage that Wang Yi had previously mentioned. This was also his goal. It was ranked as the best in the spiritual food catalog. According to the description, this item often grew in places where spiritual energy gathered. It gave birth to one petal every 10 years and ripened every 70 years. One first had to pluck the seven-colored petals and use a secret technique to refine them into a medicinal liquid. Then, when the liquid was dripped into other dishes when cooking, it could add a strange fragrance that greatly increased the taste of the spiritual food. Of course, the seven-colored heaven ascension stage was far more than just this. It was also a martial arts treasure. It also contained a massive amount of energy. If an early rank 8 expert consumed it, it would allow them to advance to rank 9 in a short period of time without any side effects. It had to be known that although advancing from rank -8 to rank 9 did not involve crossing tiers, it was still extremely difficult. Perhaps there were some people who would spend their entire lives without being able to do so. Thus, one could imagine how precious this flower was. If it were to appear in the outside world, it would definitely cause a storm of blood. Furthermore, this was only its secondary function. There was an even more important function. After a peak rank 9 expert consumed it, when they faced the 9 stone steps in the Phala space, an additional 7-colored stone step would be condensed, forming the 10th stone step. This was the origin of its name, 7-color heaven ascension stage. If it was obtained by a rank 9 expert who did not have a solid cultivation foundation and whose 9 stone steps were not powerful enough to allow them to reach the connate Phala, it was very likely that they could use this additional step to pluck the connate Phala. Then, they would enter the legendary realm that everyone dreamed about. If advancing from rank -8 to rank 9 was like walking alone on a wooden bridge, with strength or enough luck, there was still some chance of success. As for advancing from rank 9 to the connate realm, it was like walking on a tightrope. Unless one was strong enough, there was no luck to speak of. If one couldn't do it, then they simply could not do it. If those experts who were stuck at peak rank 9 knew about this, it wouldn't be as simple as a bloody storm. A million corpses would be nothing. After all, this was a chance to live forever. Who would be willing to give it up so easily? As the saying went, the success of a general was worth tens of thousands of corpses. For the sake of that sliver of hope, even if their eyes turned from killing or their blood dyed the ground red, those people would not even blink. Wang Yi stepped forward and realized that the 7-colored heaven ascension stage had not fully matured yet. Although 7 petals had already bloomed, the last purple petal was clearly a little pale. Wang Yi arrived a little early. Judging from the color of the last petal, it would probably be a month or two before it fully matured. However, it didn't matter. Although plucking it before it fully matured would result in a great loss of its medicinal effects, the taste wouldn't be affected. Furthermore, what Wang Yi needed was precisely what seemed to be the most useless effect of the 7-color heaven ascension stage. After all, the amount of energy contained in the flower was only equivalent to the amount of energy he could obtain from signing in for one day. As for adding another stone step in the Phala space, it was simply like playing around for Wang Yi. What use was it? If he wanted to, he could have easily jumped to obtain the connate Phala in the Phala space. There was no need to go through so much trouble. This priceless martial arts treasure was too pitiful for Wang Yi. It could only be used as a seasoning. If other peak rank 9 experts knew about this, they would probably form a team to kill him. How could there be such a waste of natural resources? Even the phrases, casting pearls before swines, or giving a donkey strawberries, could not describe such behavior. Of course, all of this had to be built on the premise that Wang Yi could obtain the 7-colored heaven ascension stage. A top treasure of this level would definitely be protected by a ferocious beast, especially before it matured. Furthermore, the beast would be the strongest creature in its surroundings. The reason was very simple. The spiritual perception of a beast was much stronger than that of a human. Thus, it was likely that even before the spiritual object formed, it would be able to detect it and fight over the right to protect it. On the other hand, the world of beasts was more realistic and the law of the jungle was even more straightforward. Only by defeating all the competitors would one have the qualifications to stand out and enjoy this level of spiritual treasure. Furthermore, those who survived this competition were the strongest in this area. If they were not strong enough, they would have been killed by other beasts long ago and turned into food. How could they have the right to guard this place? Wang Yi walked towards the pool. His steps were not very fast as he carefully observed his surroundings. As expected, as he got closer to the pond, the guardian beast could no longer continue hiding in the shadows. N0VLBJN served as the original host for this chapter's release on NOV3LB1N. Exclamation mark. A huge black shadow leapt over Wang Yi's head, accompanied by the howling of the wind. Although it was at night, Wang Yi could feel that the sky seemed to have darkened at this moment. Bang! With a loud sound, a heavy object landed on the ground. Then, a huge black shadow turned in the air and stood between Wang Yi and the pool, blocking his path forward. That black shadow was like a hound. Its four limbs were on the ground and its sharp claws easily tore through the ground, sinking deep into the rocks. Meanwhile, its razor-sharp tail continuously moved and whipped through the air. The beast was over 20 meters tall and had a terrifyingly long body. It was at least 40 meters tall if it stood on its hind legs. Its yellow fur was covered with black rings, and there was a pair of silver wings on its back. Its feathers had a metallic luster, and they seemed to be densely embedded with silver daggers. The enormous head lowered as it faced Wang Yi. Then, it opened its bloody mouth, releasing a wave of fishy smell. The fur of the black creature stood on end, making it look ferocious. It stomped on the ground and was ready to pounce at any moment. It was at full alert. Wang Yi was speechless as he looked at the creature in front of him. It was a silver-winged cloud leopard. The ranking of this creature in the spiritual food catalog wasn't low either. It was most famous for its pair of silver wings. Furthermore, its taste was so good that it had no competitors. Looking at its size, it was likely that it had the strength of at least a rank 9 or even a peak rank 9 creature. This guardian beast was not weak. Strictly speaking, this was the first proper opponent Wang Yi had encountered since he came to this world. He could even sense a faint sense of danger from this creature. Since Wang Yi had been cultivating all along and his strength had increased too quickly, he had not yet exchanged blows with experts of the same level. Thus, being able to fight and verify his own strength was not bad. As for the silver-winged cloud leopard, it was filled with vigilance towards Wang Yi. It could feel that the tiny body opposite it was filled with terrifying power, like a dormant volcano that could erupt at any moment. It was fine if the human did not move, but once he moved, it would be earth-shattering. Wang Yi only felt a slight sense of danger. However, the silver-winged cloud leopard felt as if there was a blade on its back, as if its life could be in danger at any moment. Of course, it did not dare to make the first move. Instead, it produced deep roars like thunder as if it was trying to intimidate Wang Yi or to boost its courage. Wang Yi's footsteps did not stop as he continued moving forward. His goal was very simple. It was the seven-colored heaven ascension stage. No one could stop him. As for the threat of the silver-winged cloud leopard, he really didn't think much of it. Who was the one who was afraid? At most, he would just fight. Wang Yi was not afraid of anyone in the same rank as him. In the end, there would simply be one more spiritual ingredient in the system space. Seeing that Wang Yi did not have any intention of stopping, the silver-winged cloud leopard immediately became alert. Its beastly eyes emitted an endless cold light, and all the hair on its body stood up. Its silver wings fully spread open, making them look like two blades. However, it endured and did not leap into action immediately. It only retreated step by step as Wang Yi advanced. Seeing that they were getting closer and closer to the pond, the silver-winged cloud leopard also became increasingly agitated. When they were 100 meters away from the pond, the silver-winged cloud leopard finally stopped its retreat. At this point, there was no way to retreat. It could not give up. It had only broken through to the peak of rank 9 due to luck. However, its basics and foundation were lacking, and there was no way to ascend to the heavens. Thus, there was no hope of entering the Conate realm. Its strength had stagnated at the peak of rank 9 for more than 10 years without any improvement. The long period of time had already worn down the silver-winged cloud leopard's spirit. In fact, it no longer held any illusions about the Conate realm. In this boundless wilderness, occupying a corner of the land and being a free and unfettered great beast king was rather carefree. It was also by chance that the silver-winged cloud leopard discovered this place. When it saw the immature seven-colored heaven ascension stage, the flames of hope in its heart instantly reignited. After all, the temptation of eternal life was too hard to resist. Even a ferocious beast could not resist such temptation. From then on, it left its territory and came here. During this period, it was injured countless times. Furthermore, there were even a few times when it was on the verge of death. Only after it defeated many competitors did it become the new great beast king of this region. For it, This was a prerequisite for living a long life. If anyone dared to seize it, then it would sever the silver-winged cloud leopard's progress towards the connate realm. Then, its hatred would be as deep as the sea and would not stop until it died. Its malevolent head slowly lowered, while its bloody mouth opened and closed. A human voice actually sounded, but its voice was a bit low. It was a bit hoarse, as if he was an old man. In Wang Yi's ears, it was like a thunderclap that made his ears ring. Human expert, I am the silver-winged great beast king. The heaven-breaking peak is my territory, and I have guarded it for many years. Please leave quickly and don't make any mistakes. Otherwise, between you and me, it will be a battle of life and death. Wang Yi was stunned for a moment before stopping. Of course, he would not be frightened, nor would he give up his goal just because of a few words from the silver-winged cloud leopard. However, he was a little surprised. His previous self had no right to come into contact with such a level of ferocious beast, so he was not very clear about it. He never thought that a beast could actually speak in human language. However, when he thought about it, he realized that the beast had to be strong enough. After all, not every beast could speak. However, since they could communicate, Wang Yi no longer wanted to kill it. He just felt a little unhappy. This fellow was really too tall. When he looked at this creature, he had to raise his head. Furthermore, its voice was very loud, which was very disconcerting for Wang Yi. In short, it made people very uncomfortable. Wang Yi was straightforward too. He rebutted angrily, everyone has the freedom to say anything they want, I see. If that's the case, then I'm Jinlin Guoshi. This is not the heaven-breaking peak, but the secret diamond sect. As for this item, it's the most precious treasure of the secret sect. What does this have to do with you? Hurry up and retreat, or else you might lose your life. Wang Yi's words were not pleasant to the ears. There was no trace of politeness. Meanwhile, the silver-winged cloud leopard's eyes were filled with confusion. Jinlin Guoshi, when did such an expert appear in the Langya region? A rank 9 Grandmaster would be a big shot no matter where he went. How could he be a nobody? Furthermore, this person was absolutely a top-notch presence among the rank 9 martial artists. His aura was even comparable to those top great grandmasters who had undergone a transformation. Legend had it that after those peerless geniuses reached the peak of rank 9, their strength and foundation would be enough to support them, allowing them to easily obtain the connate phala. But for some reason, they did not choose to advance. Instead, they would continue to stay at rank 9 and refine their bodies crazily. They would transform their bodies, cultivate their true chi and spirit, and reach the peak of their current realm. Then, they would break into the connate realm in their strongest state and pluck an even more perfect connate phala. Of course, there were also some rank 9 great grandmasters, who had no hope of reaching the connate realm in their entire lives, who chose this path. However, with their aptitude, it was extremely difficult. There were very few people who could make a breakthrough using this method. The person before him clearly belonged to the former category. However, the silver-winged cloud leopard had never heard of him. Could it be that the secret diamond sect really existed? Did any human city have such a name? Probably not. However, there seemed to be a giant city in the extreme west called the Secret Sect City. Could this person be from there? Upon thinking of this, the silver-winged cloud leopard couldn't help but shudder. No way, if this person really came from that place, this matter would probably be difficult to handle. Although the Secret Sect City was just an ordinary giant city, it was stronger than the average city. At the very least, Langya County City was far inferior compared to the Secret Sect City. Furthermore, the guardian of the Secret Sect City was a ruthless man. For the sake of an ordinary guard, he chased after a connate realm demon venerable for 3 days and 3 nights. Then, the guardian killed him in the endless swamp. Thus, the silver-winged cloud leopard really couldn't afford to offend any people from that city. The silver-winged cloud leopard saw that Wang Yi was standing there alone and had no intention to make a move. Instead, he just stared at it unhappily. The silver-winged cloud leopard couldn't help but secretly sigh in relief. It was good that it did not attack. The worst thing that could have happened was that it immediately made a move earlier. Compared to that, it was nothing if Wang Yi's words were harsh. Which martial artist below the connate realm would not be jealous of such a treasure? Moreover, they were in the wilderness, and the flower was an ownerless object, to begin with. If one encountered a competitor, they would definitely fight first before speaking. There was no need to be so long-winded. Even a connate realm expert would fight for it with all their might. Even if one could not use this kind of treasure, there was no harm in possessing it regardless. If another Conate realm expert appeared among his forces or in his family, it was not a bad choice to allow them to use it. After all, this was equivalent to increasing their overall strength. However, Wang Yi did not choose to attack immediately. Thus, in the eyes of the silver-winged cloud leopard, this meant that there was still room for discussion. It all depended on the price it had to pay. For the sake of advancing, any price was worth it. However, even if it was worth it, if it was possible for the silver-winged cloud leopard to not pay any price, it was better than having to pay a price. A hint of craftiness flashed through the silver-winged cloud leopard's enormous eyes, and it formed a plan in the blink of an eye. Why not give it a try? Roar! A loud roar suddenly resounded throughout the entire forest. When the roar sounded, it was as if there was a thunderclap in the clear sky above the mountain peak. Terrifying sound waves rushed out in all directions, sweeping up gusts of violent winds. On the ground, the rocks that had just been scratched were swept up and turned into dust. The silver-winged cloud leopard stood there just like that, its aura surged and howled. The surrounding environment was affected. Visible air waves formed and surrounded its body. It was as if it had suddenly suffered some kind of stimulation. It acted as if it had gone mad, and a cold light erupted from its beast eyes. Its anger soared to the heavens as it shouted sternly, "How insolent!" The endless wilderness outside of Langya County City is the territory of the demon venerable Tiandu. I am the third great beast king under the demon venerable, and this is something that the demon venerable ordered me to protect. How dare you be so impudent? Are you going to challenge me, Tiandu's demon leader? Are you going to challenge the Lord Demon Venerable? After shouting, it stood there with an awe-inspiring and arrogant expression, like a king looking down on Wang Yi. The silver-winged cloud leopard seemed to be full of vigor, but in its heart, it was also panicking. It was afraid that Wang Yi would suddenly kill him out of anger. If the other party wanted to kill him, it would take a matter of minutes. Actually, this was also a gamble. It was betting that Wang Yi would not kill it. This was a good opportunity to probe the other party's background. If the other party really was from the secret sect city, he definitely wouldn't care about the threat of the silver-winged cloud leopard. In that case, the silver-winged cloud leopard could only think of other ways. However, if the other party did not have such a powerful background, the silver-winged cloud leopard might be able to use the name of the demon venerable to scare the other party away without paying any price. As such, it would be able to claim the treasure for itself. The silver-winged cloud leopard wasn't willing to tell the demon venerable Tiandu about the seven-colored ascension stage. If such a treasure was reported, it might be appreciated by the demon venerable and the silver-winged cloud leopard would definitely be rewarded. However, no matter what the reward was, it would not be as important as the seven-colored heaven ascension stage. Moreover, he was only the third great beast king. There were still the first and second great beast kings before him. According to the distribution of resources, the rewards would definitely be given to the first two beast kings first. Their chances of breaking through were indeed higher. No matter who the rewards were given to, it would never have the chance to advance. Thus, it could only hope that the reputation of the demon venerable could really scare the other party. To be honest, the silver-winged cloud leopard's move was actually quite good. Although it was a vicious beast, its intelligence and calculations were not inferior to a human's. In fact, it was much stronger in these aspects. Ordinary people, and even top-notch great grandmasters who had undergone a transformation, would not be willing to provoke a demon venerable. They would most likely retreat. However, the silver-winged cloud leopard was unlucky to have met Wang Yi today. Was Wang Yi an ordinary person? He was a transmigrator. Not long after he came to this world, he already possessed such terrifying strength in an extremely short period of time. However, he was still a newcomer after all. The memories he inherited did not include any understanding of anything beyond Rank 7, so he was rather clueless about this world. He didn't even know what a great beast king was, let alone a demon venerable. The demon venerable was the honorific name of a Conate realm demon. After a beast entered the Conate realm, it would transform into a demon and cleanse its body, producing all sorts of incredible changes. Just like humans who broke through to the Conate realm, their lifespan would also increase. However, even if Wang Yi knew, he wouldn't care. So what if he offended the demon venerable? By the time the other party came knocking on his door, he would have long since broken through to the Conate realm. Even if he hadn't made a breakthrough yet, he would at least have the power to match or even kill Conate realm experts. At that time, if the other party really dared to find him, he would directly slap them to death. It would be a good opportunity to enrich his inventory of spiritual food. Wang Yi was startled by the sudden roar. His ears were ringing and he felt dizzy. It was not that the roar was powerful enough to hurt Wang Yi. If the silver-winged cloud leopard really had such strength, then what was the point of confronting it here? Wang Yi would have long fled. It was mainly because the roar was too sudden and because he was not mentally prepared. Thus, he was caught off guard. At this moment, Wang Yi's heart was burning with rage, and his gaze towards the silver-winged cloud leopard became increasingly hostile. This beast was definitely looking for trouble. He had originally planned to let it go, but he didn't expect such a move from it. It was a typical death-seeking player. Wang Yi was also furious and let out a long howl. On top of the mountain peak, it was as if thousands of dragons were roaring. All kinds of roars could be heard as a majestic aura swept in all directions. Within a radius of a few kilometers, all those who were not strong enough were knocked unconscious by the sound waves. The closer they got to the center of the source, the more powerful the sound waves were. Some were even directly killed. This was much more terrifying than the silver-winged cloud leopard's roar. Countless cracks instantly appeared on the mirror-like peak and extended into the distance like a spider web. The silver-winged cloud leopard's enormous body was forcefully flipped over by this sound wave and it flew backward. At the same time, Wang Yi suddenly charged out. His body rubbed against the air and created a sonic boom. He seemed to ignore space and distance. He was like a bolt of lightning in the night, appearing and disappearing in an instant. He was the last to start moving but first to land. He appeared directly beside the massive figure that was sent flying. As he brandished his fists, his aura erupted. It was vast and boundless like an abyss. Following this, he threw a punch forward. True Qi revolved around his fists, and the faint images of a dragon and an elephant appeared. This was accompanied by boundless divine power, and it was like a volcanic eruption, scorching and violent. The expression of the previously awe-inspiring silver-winged cloud leopard immediately changed. It was no longer as calm as before. In an instant, it felt cold sweat seeping out of its back. It was like a mouse that had been targeted by a cat. It was naturally suppressed and its life was in great danger. The slightest carelessness would result in its death. No matter what, the silver-winged cloud leopard was still a rank 9 beast king. Although it was much weaker than Wang Yi, it was still at the same level and was not that weak. In the blink of an eye, it reacted and adjusted its body in midair. Then, its head dodged the attack as it stretched out its front claw to meet Wang Yi's fist. Boom! The fist and the claw suddenly collided. Then, a strong force spread from the center of the impact. If there was a ranked 7 Grandmaster present, they would probably be severely injured or even die from the force. Wang Yi's fist seemed extremely tiny in front of the huge claw. It was like a mayfly trying to shake a tree or a mantis trying to stop a chariot. However, what was even more shocking was that despite his extremely thin arm, he was actually completely unharmed. As for the incomparably gigantic sharp claw, it actually bent in the opposite direction in an incomparably strange manner before drooping down powerlessly. The silver-winged cloud leopard suddenly let out a mournful cry. It forcefully endured the bone-piercing pain from its front claw and borrowed the force of this strike to flee into the distance at an even faster speed. Then, it instantly disappeared from the peak. He was strong. He was simply too strong. It had already overestimated Wang Yi, but it did not expect that one strike from him would directly break its front claw. The silver-winged cloud leopard felt a chill in its heart. This was too difficult. That was so close. If it had reacted any slower, that terrifying fist would have landed directly on its head. Then, it would probably have died here today. It looked at Wang Yi, who was still chasing him relentlessly and could not help but doubt its life as a beast. Who is the ferocious beast here? Shouldn't it be me? I am the great beast king. However, this guy is even more ferocious than a ferocious beast. He's so outrageously violent. He is simply a ferocious person. As it fled frantically, it could not help but complain in its heart. At this moment, the silver-winged cloud leopard no longer had the mood to care about the gains and losses of obtaining the 7-colored heaven ascension stages. Before this, it was prepared to fight to the death. However, that was on the condition that there was no large difference in the strength between the two parties. In this situation, it was useless even if it had some tricks up its sleeve. In the face of absolute strength, any tricks would be useless. When Wang Yi appeared, even though the silver-winged cloud leopard sensed an extremely powerful threat, for the sake of living a long life, it still had the courage to fight with its life on the line. However, just that simple punch shattered its awareness, preparation, confidence, and courage. Before facing death, any mental construction and preparation seemed so pathetic. Only in the face of death would one truly know how terrifying death was. Although there was a great terror when one was between life and death, there was also a great relief. However, one had to understand life and death in order to not sink into the sea of bitterness and struggle without being aware of it. Only by truly understanding it could one escape and obtain great relief. However, the silver-winged cloud leopard clearly did not possess any of these qualities. When the aura of death descended, it was already scared out of its wits. Thus, it threw everything else away. It could forget about reaching the Conate realm and obtaining a 1,000-year lifespan. All it wanted to do now was to preserve its life. Borrowing the power of Wang Yi's punch, the silver-winged cloud leopard's speed was indeed much faster than before. In a flash, it had already appeared at the foot of the mountain and was rushing into the distance. However, Wang Yi, who was chasing behind it, was even faster. He was rapidly closing in. With every step he took, there were sonic booms around him. Before leaving Kang City, Wang Yi's speed had already reached 500 meters per second. At that time, there was no sonic boom. Thus, one could imagine how fast he was now. Wang Yi frantically chased after the silver-winged cloud leopard, but his mouth was not idle either. He shouted sternly, "You dog, don't run if you dare to fight. Why are you so loud? How dare you scare me? If I catch you, I'll definitely kill you." The silver-winged cloud leopard, who was frantically running for its life, almost fell to the ground when it heard the shouts behind it. Fortunately, it didn't spit out a mouthful of blood. It had also gone all out in its escape. But it still couldn't help but shout back, "I am a leopard, a leopard. You are the dog, your whole family are dogs. Do you think that I won't run if you don't let me run? Are you stupid? Bast, I'm just trying to scare you, aren't I? You're just too loud, aren't you? Bite me if you're not happy, you beast. Fuck, you dare to scold me." Behind the silver-winged cloud leopard, Wang Yi's eyes were burning with anger. "This dog is really too arrogant. When I catch you, if I don't give you a good beating, I'll cross my heart and pledge to die." Wang Yi silently competed with the silver-winged cloud leopard. However, he did not say anything else. Instead, he sped up. The silver-winged cloud leopard watched as the great and vicious human being got closer and closer to it. It felt bitter inside. "I've already fucking escaped. Why is this bastard still chasing after me? Wasn't this human afraid that someone would beat him to the seven-colored heaven ascension stage while he chased after the silver-winged cloud leopard?" Normally, the silver-winged cloud leopard would never allow its enemies to acquire the treasure that it had relentlessly protected. Until now, even if it could not obtain such a treasure, it could not allow its enemies to obtain it. But today, in order to gain some time to escape, it could only helplessly remind, "Bastard, why are you still chasing me? If you continue chasing me, that seven-colored heaven ascension stage will become someone else's." Wang Yi was stunned, but he did not stop and continued his mad pursuit. The seven-colored heaven ascension stage, that was no longer important. Right now, what he wanted to do the most was to capture that bastard in front of him and beat it up first. Then, he would roar 100 times by its ears. 100 times. The silver-winged cloud leopard saw that Wang Yi seemed to be possessed. He didn't care about the gains or losses of the supreme treasure. Instead, he continued to chase after it, completely unmoved. A look of determination flashed across the silver-winged cloud leopard's eyes as it looked at the ferocious man, who seemed to be able to catch up to it in the next second. This couldn't go on, otherwise, Wang Yi would soon catch up to it. Since it was going to die anyway, it might as well take a gamble. Crack! The silver-winged cloud leopard, which was running for its life, instantly stopped. It went from extreme motion to extreme stillness, and the powerful inertia caused it to slide hundreds of meters forward. 3 deep ravines were carved into the ground that was mixed with rocks. The huge beast's eyes were filled with nervousness as it stared at Wang Yi, calculating the distance in its heart. Just as Wang Yi was about to reach it, its 3 remaining claws suddenly exerted force and shot towards the sky. When Wang Yi saw this, he bent his legs and exerted strength. He also leapt into the sky. He did not even consider if this was a scheme by the silver-winged cloud leopard. There was no need for that. This was the confidence brought about by absolute strength. No matter how dangerous it was, he could protect his body without fear. The distance between the two was rapidly becoming shorter. Wang Yi could even see the silver-winged cloud leopard's powerless front claws. Then, Wang Yi suddenly laughed crazily. "You dog, run." After that, he threw out a punch. The might of the punch was even more terrifying than the previous punch. Even the images of the dragon and the elephant seemed as if they were about to materialize. Meanwhile, the silver-winged cloud leopard's face turned green. Holy fuck, could it be that he did not use his full strength to deliver a punch that could easily kill a rank 9 beast king earlier? That joke was going too far. As the silver-winged cloud leopard saw the terrifying fist imprint getting closer and closer to it, it made up its mind. Now that things had come to this, there was no turning back. It would either live or die. Then, it extended his remaining intact front claw and smashed it over. Boom. This time, the collision was even more intense. There was a terrifying force as a rumbling sound resounded throughout the entire sky. It was as if thunder was continuously exploding out of thin air. The silver-winged cloud leopard's sharp claws turned into a bloody mist the moment they came into contact with Wang Yi's. Immediately after, its entire forelimb also turned into a bloody mist. Then, it spat out another mouthful of blood. It stared at its missing forelimbs and heaved a sigh of relief. Good, good. Although this punch had severely injured it, at least its life was saved. Borrowing the power of Wang Yi's punch, his body continued to rise even higher. Under the counterforce of the punch, Wang Yi's figure was like a meteor streaking across the sky. He rapidly fell towards the ground while accompanied by a dazzling light. Bang! Since he was just too fast, the instant he landed, rumbling sounds rang out, shaking the mountains as if there was an earthquake. The ground looked as though it had been attacked by a missile. Then, a huge ring-shaped hole appeared out of thin air. Dust flew everywhere and enveloped everyone. Wang Yi stood at the center of the ring-shaped crater. Through the layers of dust, he looked at the silver-winged cloud leopard in the sky. Just as he was about to leap into the sky again, he was stunned. Holy fuck, how could that leopard be so shameless? At this moment, the silver-winged cloud leopard suddenly let out a sigh of relief. It made the right bet. Although it had paid a heavy price, it was good to be alive. As expected, this fierce man really did not know its own innate ability. Furthermore, the silver-winged cloud leopard was still alive. That terrifying punch saved its life. The silver-winged cloud leopard's enormous body was still rising. At the same time, two super small white clouds appeared out of thin air under its two remaining intact hind legs. When the force of the punch was exhausted, the momentum of its ascent stopped, but the silver-winged cloud leopard's body actually didn't fall. Instead, it relied on the two white clouds that had suddenly appeared to float in the air. Although it looked rather shaky and clumsy, it was indeed floating in the sky. Previously, after one attack, Wang Yi had already determined that its silver wings were merely a powerful physical weapon. It was like the fangs and claws of a ferocious beast. Its wings simply did not possess the ability to fly. Therefore, he wasn't afraid that it would escape. However, he didn't expect this dog thing to have such a move. As Wang Yi looked at this series of actions while standing in the crater, he felt extremely annoyed. He really wanted to shout out loud and ask the heavens to pay attention to this big shot, who was flying using its feet. At this time, Wang Yi was also somewhat helpless. No matter how strong he was still within the 9-rank system. There was indeed nothing he could do to the enemies in the sky. After all, he was still a human. No matter how high he jumped, there would be times when he would fall. If he had to think of a way to fly into the sky and kill that fellow, Wang Yi could only shout, "I can't do it." Meanwhile, the silver-winged cloud leopard stood in the air by standing on two white clouds. It was finally no longer afraid. It was safe. But it also felt helpless in its heart. That guy in the crater was a real bastard who didn't follow the rules at all. If he was from the secret sect city, he might be disdainful or furious, but he probably wouldn't attack right away. Instead, it was very likely that he would use his identity to retaliate. After all, people from the secret sect city were even harder to provoke. Meanwhile, if he didn't have a powerful background, then when he heard the name of the Lord Demon Venerable, even if he wanted to steal the treasure, he would have some misgivings. After making sure that no one would find out, he would kill the silver-winged cloud leopard. However, he did not expect that Wang Yi was not from the secret sect city and didn't even know what kind of existence the Demon Venerable was. He suddenly attacked in rage because the silver-winged cloud leopard was too loud and had scared him. The silver-winged cloud leopard felt extremely wronged. He felt even more wrong than Do. E1. It was shouted so loud earlier just to show off the prestige of the Demon Venerable. However, It did not expect that Wang Yi would suddenly attack just because of this. This guy was just a fool. He was a humanoid beast whose brain was full of muscle and nothing else. Actually, this was nothing. The most frightening thing was that this sort of person was extremely powerful. This was simply unreasonable. As the saying went, people were not afraid that the hooligans would become cultured. Instead, they were afraid that the hooligans would learn martial arts. This kind of crazy person who didn't play by the rules was the most terrifying when they had strength. The silver-winged cloud leopard floated in the air and stood on its hind legs. Its heart was bleeding as it looked at its limp front leg, as well as the other front leg that was dripping with blood. Although it was acceptable to pay this price to preserve its life, the price was indeed a little too high. In the future, even if it recovered, its strength would be greatly reduced. At most, it could only display the strength of a peak rank 8 beast king. The beast's eyes were filled with rage as it looked at the culprit in the pit. Now that it was safe, the silver-winged cloud leopard no longer had any reservations and started scolding Wang Yi. "You bastard, didn't you tell me to stop? I'm waiting for you here. Come and kill me if you dare." Since he could no longer catch the other party, Wang Yi was actually prepared to pluck the 7-colored heaven ascension stage and return. He felt a little vexed. However, the silver-winged cloud leopard's provocation made Wang Yi feel even more vexed. A wave of evil flames surged in his head, and then he shouted angrily. "Bastard, come down if you dare. I'll give you one of my hands." The silver-winged cloud leopard didn't want to be outdone either. It bared its fangs and roared, "Bastard. If you have the ability, then come up. If you come up, I'll let you have my 2 hind legs." Wang Yi shouted, "You dog. Do you dare to come down?" The silver-winged cloud leopard roared, "Bastard. Do you dare to come up?" Ellipsis. The man and beast began to curse at each other from afar. Neither of them was willing to show any weakness. Their roars were like rolling thunder that spread in all directions. It scared some of the weaker creatures into fleeing into the distance as if they were escaping from a fatal disaster. Among them were some ferocious beasts that were natural enemies of each other. They didn't even have time to attack each other. They only ran for their lives, not daring to stay in the vicinity for even a second longer. The argument between the man and the beast lasted for a few hours before stopping. The reason was very simple. After such a long exchange of words, their mouths were already dry. Wang Yi stood in the crater, his hands on his waist as he panted. He felt that this was more tiring than fighting for hours. He glanced at the figure in the sky. This bastard, even though its strength was nothing much, its ability to court death was really strong. Putting everything else aside, Wang Yi had truly gotten into a dispute with this beast. However, he didn't believe that this kind of ability didn't have any limitations and could allow the creature to float indefinitely in the air. Meanwhile, the silver-winged cloud leopard in the air was in an even worse state. Its huge head drooped down, and its long tongue was dangling. It really did look like a dog that was panting weakly. At this moment, it felt extremely aggrieved. Looking at the other party's unrelenting attitude, those who didn't know better would think that it was the one at a disadvantage. It silently muttered, "It's all my fault. It was a treasure that I had guarded for a long time, and it was about to be taken away by someone else. However, I was severely injured and had to pay a price of half a front leg to survive. Meanwhile, this son of a bitch had nothing to lose. What was he trying to steal?" Meanwhile, Wang Yi's breathing quickly became even. After all, his strength was still there. He only felt a little parched. After waiting for a while, he realized that the silver-winged cloud leopard didn't move. It just floated above him and didn't leave. It was also staring at him. Then, Wang Yi suddenly smiled evilly. In a flash, he disappeared into the pit. The silver-winged cloud leopard was shocked by this sudden movement, and its eyes were filled with confusion. What kind of scheme was this monster doing? It didn't believe that this fierce person would give up so easily. Wang Yi's figure swayed as he rushed towards the giant peak. In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared at the peak. When the silver-winged cloud leopard saw this, it also seemed to have suddenly thought of something. It controlled the 2 white clouds and flew up for a distance before swaying and flying towards the peak. After Wang Yi reached the peak, he rushed towards the pool where the 7-colored heaven ascension stage was. With a wave of his hand, he sent a surge of true chi forward. Then, the spirit chi in the lake swiftly morphed into a pillar of water that shot towards him. Wang Yi opened his mouth and sucked it like a whale sucking in water. Then, the spiritual spring instantly entered his stomach. After that, he smacked his lips, looking extremely comfortable. He looked at the black shadow that slowly appeared above his head and could not help but deliberately provoke it. The taste of this spiritual spring is really not bad. It's sweet and delicious. I wonder how this flower tastes. Then, he pretended to pluck the flower. In the sky, the silver-winged cloud leopard's eyes turned red. Although it understood that it basically had no fate with the seven-colored heaven ascension stage anymore, it still felt heartache as it watched that vicious person trying to pluck it right in front of it. Even though it knew that the other party was intentionally provoking him, it still couldn't help but say, "Bastard. Take your dirty hands away and don't touch my things." Wang Yi's hand really stopped there and he didn't move. He had a faint smile on his face as he teased the silver-winged cloud leopard. "Fine, I won't touch it. As long as you dare to come down, this thing will definitely be yours." The silver-winged cloud leopard looked at Wang Yi as if he was retarded. "Are you stupid or am I stupid? If it really dared to go down now, not only would it not be able to obtain the seven-colored heaven ascension stage, but it would probably lose its life down there." When Wang Yi saw that there was no reaction from the other party, he extended his hand forward again. His speed was very slow as he got closer and closer. He was trying to create pressure. If he were to pluck the flower, no matter how unwilling the other party was, it would probably flee immediately. This was just like fishing. If one wanted to fish, they had to have bait. If there was no bait, how could they expect the fish to take the bait? Wang Yi never thought that he would let this guy off so easily. It was really too infuriating. It was practically certain that he would defeat the beast, yet it had made use of his attacks to flee twice. If it wanted to escape, so be it. The main thing was that this fellow's mouth was especially despicable. The moment it opened its mouth, it easily made people angry. Meanwhile, Wang Yi had forgotten that he was the one who started the verbal attack first. The other party had simply retaliated. However, even if he didn't forget, he would still have ignored this fact. The problem wasn't with him. The blame was all on that dog. Seeing that Wang Yi's hand was getting closer and closer to the seven-colored heaven ascension stage, the silver-winged cloud leopard became more and more anxious, but there was nothing it could do. Even at this stage, it still held onto its last bit of hope. However, it still maintained its rationality and knew that the other party was doing this on purpose. Seeing the weird smile on Wang Yi's face, it couldn't help but feel disgusted. It could not help but feel angry. After all, Wang Yi had forced it into this situation. Even if the seven-colored heaven ascension stage was destroyed, it could not let him obtain it. In fact, if there was a chance, he might even be seriously injured or could directly die. Of course, it was impossible for him to go down and fight it out with that fierce person. After all, the silver-winged cloud leopard knew very well what he was capable of. Such action was simply courting death. The huge beast raised its head, opened its mouth, and spat out a mouthful of saliva. Its target was Wang Yi. Holy shit, Wang Yi was truly disgusted at this. Unexpectedly, not only did he not agitate the other party, but he even caused its mental state to collapse. To the silver-winged cloud leopard, this was only saliva, but to Wang Yi, it was no less than a torrential rain falling on his head. Wang Yi quickly circulated his true qi and surrounded himself with light to protect himself. Then, he struck out with his palm. When the saliva was still a distance away from his head, it was dispersed by the surging true qi. Wang Yi was furious as well. He fiercely stomped his left foot on the peak, causing countless cracks to appear instantly as crushed rocks scattered all around. The true qi left his body and transformed into a claw shape. He grabbed a piece of rubble that was flying in his direction. Then, he kicked the piece of rubble out with his right leg. The rubble was like a thunderbolt that instantly tore through the sky, directly striking the silver-winged cloud leopard's vital points. All of this had occurred too quickly, and it was completed in an instant. The silver-winged cloud leopard wanted to dodge, but it was already too late. It could only flap its silver wings, which transformed into two heavenly blades that struck towards the rubble. The two collided, and the rubble directly turned into powder. The silver-winged cloud leopard also staggered back a few steps before it could stabilize its body. Fortunately, the rubble was not made of particularly strong material. In addition, Wang Yi only used a remote attack. Thus, the silver-winged cloud leopard managed to barely withstand it. But this made the silver-winged cloud leopard even more careful. It floated a bit higher and only stopped when it felt that it was high enough. In its heart, it was helpless as well. It wouldn't be wrong to be extra careful against such a powerful being. It suddenly felt much better after looking at the furious Wang Yi. Then, it opened its large mouth. Ha! Wang Yi kicked again. I'll give you a stone. The silver-winged cloud leopard spat again. Wang Yi kicked another stone. Ellipsis. Just like the previous argument, the man and beast fell into a long cycle of attacking each other. Compared to before, Wang Yi was now in a huge crater, sinking a dozen meters into the ground. Meanwhile, his surroundings were filled with potholes, and rubble was everywhere. The silver-winged cloud leopard had been in a fluster before, but after familiarizing itself with the area, there were very few rocks that hit it. It could even take its time to mock Wang Yi. On the other hand, Wang Yi had no other choice but to stand on the peak and continuously kick rocks into the air. The other party was really too high up in the sky. Unless he broke through to rank 10, he would not be able to reach it at all. He did not want to let the other party off so easily, so he could only continue the stalemate. The silver-winged cloud leopard also spat quite a bit of saliva at Wang Yi. In the beginning, Wang Yi had used his true qi to disperse it. Later on, he couldn't be bothered with the saliva that couldn't touch him. However, he was very curious. From the beginning of the scolding to now, it had been quite a long time. Wasn't this fellow thirsty yet? It seemed that there were still many advantages to having a large body. The silver-winged cloud leopard was constantly observing Wang Yi in the air. The first time it saw Wang Yi disperse its saliva with his true energy, it knew that its chance had come. The silver-winged cloud leopard didn't dare rashly use its trump card, and it continued to numb its opponent. After all, the other party was too strong, and it only had one chance. Either the silver-winged cloud leopard wouldn't attack, or it would attack without giving Wang Yi any time to react. After deliberately spitting a few more times and discovering that Wang Yi still wasn't dodging, the silver-winged cloud leopard finally couldn't hold back anymore. A few black beads suddenly appeared in his mouth and he spat them out again. This time, the target of his attack was very tricky. It wasn't very far from Wang Yi, but it was also in a place he often ignored. Meanwhile, Wang Yi did not notice anything. He only felt that something was wrong when the saliva landed on the ground. The moment the saliva hit the ground, all the black beads hidden within the saliva shattered. Following that, countless bolts of purple lightning filled the entire crater, turning into a sea of lightning that swallowed Wang Yi. Seeing that its attack had succeeded, the silver-winged cloud leopard roared excitedly. It felt a sense of comfort in its heart. A fool was a fool. So what if he was strong? If he was brainless, he would still be tricked by the silver-winged cloud leopard. It watched as the purple lightning dragons flickered on the mountain peak. The brilliant heavenly might seemed like it wanted to destroy the world. The entire space turned into a purgatory of lightning. The silver-winged cloud leopard's eyes were filled with astonishment. It had obtained these black beads by chance in a land of thunder. At that time, boundless divine lightning enveloped the entire space. The divine might present was akin to prison as it continuously blasted downwards, causing terrifying roars to ring out. Just by looking at it from afar, it could already feel their heart racing as if it might die at any moment. As the divine lightning continued to strike, the roars became weaker and weaker until they completely disappeared. Following this, the lightning that enveloped the affected area gradually weakened until it completely disappeared. The silver-winged cloud leopard didn't dare to enter the area immediately. Instead, it waited for a long time. When it realized that there were no more lightning strikes, it carefully floated in. It was only when it saw the scene that it realized what it meant to be miserable. The entire space was charred black, and there was no sign of life. Endless blood and bones scattered about the devastated land. Flames were burning everywhere, and black smoke was rising. This was a doomsday scene. In the middle of the space, a giant beast was lying on the ground. It seemed to have died. Its body was at least 10,000 meters tall. Even if it was lying on the ground, it still gave off an indomitable sensation. The giant beast's body was covered in countless scars, big and small. The scars appeared incomparably sinister. Meanwhile, the blood and bones scattered on the ground should all be from its body. The most fatal wound was the one on its head. It was as if a terrifying saber had split its head into two. Even so, the corpse of the beast still emitted a terrifying pressure. Even the silver-winged cloud leopard, who was already a rank 9 great beast king at the time, felt suffocated. One could imagine how powerful this beast was when it was alive. Originally, the silver-winged cloud leopard didn't want to approach this type of creature. Even if it died, its corpse still possessed immeasurable power that was incomparably dangerous. However, it could faintly sense a very powerful energy fluctuation nearby. It was as if some supreme treasure was about to appear. Thus, the silver-winged cloud leopard had no choice but to approach the corpse of the beast again. Since ancient times, wealth had moved the hearts of people. Humans died for wealth, while birds died for food. This was too normal. Even if there was any danger, it would take the risk and give it a try when facing a huge opportunity. It carefully sensed the black dust scattered around the corpse. There was a terrifying power flashing across the black dust. Meanwhile, its aura was very similar to the purple lightning from before. The black dust particles were actually just small black beads floating around. However, compared to the massive body of the silver-winged cloud leopard, they were indeed like dust. After putting away all the small black beads, the silver-winged cloud leopard discovered that this was actually an extremely powerful weapon condensed from pure lightning energy. It obtained a total of 10 black beads. For the sake of experimentation, the silver-winged cloud leopard had used up one of them on the spot and was shocked by its power. During the fight for the 7-colored heaven ascension stage, it had used another one to kill its opponent, who was also a rank 9 great beast king. It had kept the remaining 8 beads as its trump card. This time, it had gone all out to deal with Wang Yi. Even if it couldn't kill Wang Yi, it would be good if it could severely injure him. At the very least, this would destroy the 7-colored heaven ascension stage. In any case, it couldn't allow Wang Yi to feel comfortable. After all, he had gone too far in bullying beasts. Meanwhile, the moment Wang Yi was devoured by the lightning, he felt a sense of danger. It contained a power that could destroy the world. As the lightning dragons drilled into his body, the bone-piercing pain made Wang Yi moan. To the silver-winged cloud leopard, this was the most beautiful sound in the world. At this moment, Wang Yi had also discovered the deficiency of the dragon elephant wisdom technique. Although his divine power was boundless and his attacks were unparalleled, his physical defense was somewhat weak. Of course, this weakness was relative to his own strength. Compared to other martial artists, even top great grandmasters whose bodies had undergone transformation could not compare to him. The lightning also enveloped the 7-colored heaven ascension stage. The 7-colored light constantly danced and swayed within the purple lightning. It was like a lone boat in a storm that it was in danger of capsizing at any moment. Wang Yi's painful cries continued as countless bolts of lightning drilled into his body, destroying his meridians and body. This was the first time Wang Yi was faced with such a situation after he came to this world and obtained terrifying strength. The threat of death lingered in his heart and could not be eliminated. It was also because the dragon elephant wisdom technique was sufficiently abnormal. The destructive aura contained within the lightning was constantly destroying him, but the technique maintained the vitality of his physical body and constantly repaired his body. Wang Yi could not remember how long the lightning lasted. He only felt that his body was constantly being torn apart. The pain stimulated his nerves and he found every second extremely unbearable. Although Wang Yi looked extremely miserable right at this moment, the silver-winged cloud leopard did not dare to come down rashly. Even though the power of these small black beads was great, it wasn't sure if it could do anything to that great vicious human being. If the other party was fine and it went down, it would be terrible. The purple color slowly faded, and the power of the lightning was also weakening. The destructive aura within Wang Yi's body had completely disappeared, and his body that was filled with pain slowly regained its senses. At this moment, Wang Yi's entire body was charred black and there was actually a faint smell of roasted meat coming from him. However, Wang Yi started laughing. 2 rows of white teeth flashed on his black face. His voice shook the surroundings. After the terrifying destructive aura disappeared, an indescribable life force surged out from deep within his body, like a new life emerging after destruction. It was frantically repairing and improving Wang Yi's body. Wang Yi could feel that his body was like a dry land that was frantically absorbing energy. All the cells in his body felt a sense of satisfaction as the cultivation technique circulated on its own. Furthermore, the originally indestructible realm barrier actually started to wobble without consuming dragon elephant pills. Wang Yi was ecstatic. He did not expect that he could use this opportunity to make a breakthrough. The cultivation technique quickly circulated through his body. Then, the lighting that had already vanished shrouded his body once more. Lightning surrounded his body. Wang Yi was like a true god of lightning, bathed in lightning as he descended to the mortal world. Finally, the barrier was completely shattered. Wang Yi felt the strength in his body increase exponentially. His body seemed to have broken through some sort of limit. He felt as if there were 10 dragons and 10 elephants surrounding him. He had reached level 10 of the dragon elephant wisdom technique. Wait till next part.